Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today, episode 113. So good to be with you, and thank you for joining us. So, what are we all doing here on this spinning rock? On this, as the little the little ants that we are in this infinite universe? Like, what is it that we're doing? What is this all about? If they told me or you what the world would look like the day you were born. Like, what would you have done differently, or like what do you do now just facing the circumstances of there's obviously still a pandemic. There's all kinds of geopolitical conflicts and solutions coming in and going away as quickly as we fall asleep and wake up, and it's like in this ever more connected but expanding and somehow paradoxically shrinking world. Like, what can you or I do to take ourselves beyond what the past has said is available? There's always we're always our limitation is always by what happened before, and what the past says. When somebody treats us a certain way, or steals from us, or dishonors us, or argues or disagree, whatever it is, like with something that always gets in the way of what we see is available in every moment. And this is a space to where we can create together, where we lift up people who are lifting others up, because we want to hear what they're creating in the world, what their one day today is, what their dreams and visions are making a reality today. And this is a platform for you all to share your unique gifts and your unique genius in a way that lifts up and enriches us all. Because the truth is, I would assert we all have something unique that brings us all closer to what we're on this earth for. So welcome. I'm excited about our guest today. We have Cheryl Lentz with us. First, let me welcome our co-host Matthew, all the way in Hawaii.
Always on Hawaii, man. Yeah.
How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing quite well, actually. How about yourself? Like, honestly,
Doing
what's
well.
yeah.
It's been a roller coaster of mountains and valleys, like it always is, but feeling excited and enlivened. Just kind of something I want to ask both. I kind of have some inquiries I want to invite both you and Cheryl. And once we introduce Cheryl, I have some inquiries I want to kind of I want to speak to, but I want to invite everyone to kind of ask themselves, because I'm realizing something I feel like I've always done intuitively, but never really structured in my life. But it's always back to the question. It's like when I'm lost and I'm in the bottom of a valley, like, how am I going to make money for this, or how am I going to afford to live for that? It's like I don't have answers. What do I do? And then I'm in my fear. I'm in my identity of I can't do this. I can't. I'm constricted by my own mind. And it's like it's always the question. It's always the inquiry that brings us back to who we are, what we're up to in this moment, in this moment. And it's like grounding ourselves in that inquiry, I feel, is how we can build the structures in our lives, but also in our reality, our shared reality. And this is like, for me, what this is about is where every space we exist, we are enriched by the unique self-expression of every human.
Yeah, and I wonder how many people actually share that concept of inquiry. Like, I know you and I are pretty much on the same page about what we mean when we say inquiry, but I wonder like how many others actually are. Like, there's been a couple of things that I've been kind of sitting with over the last few months, and one of them is something that I think Eric Weinstein said it. He said, if anyone has thought sufficiently about any particular topic, they will inevitably have come up with their own language to talk about that topic.
Mm.
And so a lot of times, like, what I've noticed is when people are arguing over things, what they're actually arguing over are the meanings of the words they're using, not the
Mm.
actual concept itself.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's one thing. Like, so just really quick, when you and I talk about inquiry, I feel like we're both talking about that process in which we are consistently evaluating what emotions are present, what triggered those emotions, and what our responsibility was in creating those emotions. And then kind of moving beyond that, like constantly being present to what we are feeling, constantly being present to what the breath is, constantly being present to, um, you know, what the divine wants in us, like that divine inspiration, like these are the questions that we mean by the inquiry. Um, and there's an infinite number of ways to go about it. I think it's Brene Brown, The Work. If you're not familiar with that, I feel like that's a wonderful path to go down. Like it's a literal worksheet. Like you can fill out, about any particular situation that like takes you through the inquiry, the work. Um, but the other thing that came up in all of that you were talking about, how did you put it specifically, the not knowing, like not knowing what to do next, like not looking to the past for our answers, right? And that's the other thing that's been really present for me in this past week and a half, 2 weeks, really, is the potential opportunity that comes from forgetting. I mean, I don't know many people who've really like looked at this, but like if we look at things on the grand scale, you know, there have apparently been golden ages in the past, of like ages of like either utopia or near utopia on this planet, whether it be global or just within a particular geopolitical area. And those people achieved that somehow. Like they got to that golden age somehow. And then we lost it. And we've gone through dark ages, and we've had this process over the last however many thousand years of like really getting crystallized in one particular societal structure. Like there's been a majority culture that has been propagated across the planet over the last however many thousand years.
Right.
And in that process, it has wiped away all records and all knowledge of how things were done before. And so now we have this opportunity because we're recognizing like this structure that we have created over the last however many thousand years doesn't work. Like it's dysfunctional at a very core level. But we have no frame of reference from which to go back and say, okay, well, how can we do things better? At least most people don't. Like historians have some frame of reference, but like it's not really common knowledge. Instead, what we now have through this forgetting how we did things in the past, how we achieved this utopia in the past, we have an opportunity to come up with a completely new and novel way to achieve a loving society. Like, and maybe a society that's more in harmony, more in balance, a society that doesn't condemn an entire gender to subservience just because of beliefs. Like we have this opportunity to really restructure. And I feel like people are starting to see like this opportunity. I feel like COVID actually put it in glaring spotlight. Like just how dysfunctional our society is en masse. And the question is, are we going to try and cling to ways from the past to try and fix this? Or are we going to actually forge something new and create something even more amazing that can't even be imagined right now? And how are we going to do that?
Yeah, I love that, and there's so much. It connects so much with what you were saying earlier, and what I'm really present to. It's because this is a true for the macro for myself, but also for us collectively. It's we've been caught up in being person doing versus human being, and it's like because there is wisdom in the past. There's knowledge in every scripture you read, no matter if you were born in a Muslim country, a Christian country, a Buddhist country, or whatever, whether you're Sikh, whether you're, Confucius, like it doesn't matter what scripture you read or your frame of reference, but this is how Jesus did it. They didn't wear hats in church. You're sitting, and it's like, what was the purpose for that? It was how was Jesus being? How was Muhammad being? How was Moses being? The doing is always a reflection of who they're being. And there are things that were very relevant 2000, 1500 years ago, 5,000 years ago, that why they were doing it was relevant to like why they were kosher, why they didn't eat pig, why it was trichinosis. And it's like, and it's our version, it's those generational meanings for those words that we get caught up in. It's like, I think this is what they meant when they said this word in the Bible, and this is what they meant, so we have to do it exactly this way. And it's like the essence of all scripture, of all human civilization, has been how to live and be in a world that has malevolence, that has fear, like how do we suffer the least and have joy the most. And it's in the being, in the like when our doing is guided by how we're being. I feel like that's when we actually can learn the wisdom from the past and not get stuck on, he said to do it exactly this way, and if you turn left at this corner and not right, you are a sinner and you're going to hell. And it's like, it's a trap. It's it's something that I mean, we could obviously go on about.
Yeah, and honestly, like I'm, this platform has been evolving over the last 2 years we've been doing it, and I feel like we're coming into the next stage of evolution where um, it's not just revealing the wisdom on the other side of our trauma, but it's also starting to co-create something new. And it's these conversations that we're having here that are contributing to that. Like, I don't have the answers. I don't know how to create peace on earth, but like every single time I have a conversation that's authentic and vulnerable and intimate, something new, some new insight comes out of that.
Yeah.
And that's what these conversations are.
You said it. It's like, you don't have the answer. I don't have the answers, but you have the questions that will lead me to the question that will lead us to get the taste of the answer. It's like to experience, like, oh, it's there. We can't grasp it with words. We can't. You can't. You can experience it, and it's like that's what it is. It's holding up, and that's why I feel inquiries are. That's where the answer is in the question.
Absolutely.
Well, this is a good time. Let's welcome we have a guest with us, Cheryl Lentz. I'm so excited to have her. Please welcome to the stage, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello, hello, hello.
And
Thank you for
Dr.
being
Cheryl
with
Lentz,
us.
if I'm not mistaken, right?
Absolutely. But I'm telling you, I am excited. I wish my students got excited about what you guys are contemplating because I teach them all the time. It's in asking the right questions that we learn the right answers. Most people think we're in search of the answers. We're not. We're in search of the questions because the more I know, the more I realize how much I don't know.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's so true.
did you ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Oh, of course, of course.
42.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's it. What's the answer, right? Everybody's looking for it. But by the time I learned all the answers, somebody changed the question. So we had to start all over again.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And there's always going to be more questions than there are answers. And I think it's in that exploration and that discovery of the pursuit. Life doesn't happen in bookmarks. That's a photograph. It's happy. It's ever changing. It's ever evolving. And I feel like a question is the only thing that can lead. It's just that deepest why is always like in every moment we could just say change our minds. Like, I don't want to do that. It's because whatever we're doing, whether it's to do something or not do something, there's always a why.
Well, there's also something you need to remember. Life happens for us, not to us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that's going to shape our journey wherever. It's like you can't step in the same river twice. That rock that has been smoothed over years and years because of being willing to allow that knowledge to go forward. And a lot of people, as Matthew said, they're not willing. They don't like change. They don't like where we are, but they're not willing to step up and step out of their comfort zone to be able to make a difference or make a change. And that's hard work. That is really hard work to have that faith of moving forward, even though when you don't have the answers.
Right. It's like I think everybody's probably been guilty of this. I know I have. It's like, I want to change the world and make the world a better place and live my happiest, best life. but I don't want to look at or talk about that one thing that I don't want to talk about. Or
You mean that elephant in the room that's there, the whole herd that's walking by that everyone can see that nobody
Yeah.
wants to talk about?
It's like not
Yeah,
that, anything but that. But I
anything but
want to be
that, right?
happy. I want to be happy and fulfilled, but I don't want to look or talk about that one thing.
And that's the one thing the universe will give you because it's the one thing you don't want to deal with. Groundhog Day, universe style, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
got
true.
really, I was really, really touched by something I heard this week. I was listening to Aubrey Marcus, his podcast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but
Mm.
he was talking with someone about, I don't even remember what the thesis of that particular episode was anymore, but they were talking about belief and what it takes to actually change one's mind. And being, one of the qualities of leadership is, not asking someone to do something that you have not been through yourself.
Correct.
And so, they're talking about there's all these people out here who are attempting to be leaders, and they're attempting to convince people that their belief is the right belief.
Mm.
But have they actually experienced a true change of belief? Do they know what they're really asking of someone when they do that? Because to ask someone to change their belief is akin to a type of death, like it's an ego death.
And you do have to grieve for that as well, Matthew. When you have that
Absolutely.
piece of you that you have finally made a term that it is evolved, it no longer serves you, you have to learn that process to let it go, say thank you for where it came, where it brought to you, and then allow it to move on as you move on. But we're never this, you can't step in the same river twice. We're not that
Yeah.
same person. We have to allow ourselves to change. But many, as you will say, are not. And they are just so comfortable because conformity is comfortable. Not changing is comfortable, but we don't go anywhere. It's like a rocking chair. You just kind of keep busy, 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 but you never go forward.
But those of us who are embracing change, like what I
Mm.
took away from that conversation, what I'm really sitting with is, you know, I know what it feels like to have that ego death. Like I
Mm.
have died many times. It's not a fun process, like you're saying. Like there, like
Mm.
it is something to be grieved, and it is like it's heavy and it hurts and it's shameful sometimes, and it burns even. And so, for those of us who have been through it, like I feel like we have responsibility isn't quite the right word, but that's the closest thing that fits because it's like we don't have to do it. We can do it. We can choose to do it. We can choose to take on the responsibility of holding space for those who have not been through that death and guide them through it. And I don't feel like many people have been. Like I haven't really, not in that deepest sense, not on my everyday journey. Like I'll do it at the retreats. Like we host retreats every once in a while, and I'll do it there. But like to actually hold space for someone in just day to day conversation, allow them to go through that grieving process. That's not
We
something I
call
can
it in
do.
academia, it's honor the struggle. Many of my students come to
Mm.
me and they want me to tell them the answers. And I'm like, I will hold your hand, I will dry your tears, I will help you through it. But my job
Mm-hmm.
is not to give you the answers. My job is
Yeah.
to have you honor your struggle to help you find the answers. And many people don't like that struggle because it's painful and they don't want to do it. So that's their choice. They don't have to. And if you're willing, it can be amazing once you're on the other side and maybe if you can enjoy the journey. But it's not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, you have to. We all have to walk our own lonesome valley, and I think it's like what you're both like pointing to. It's like whoever, because there's always the people that are ready. I mean, we're all somewhere on our curve of mountain and valley of struggle to triumph to falling to rising, and we're all somewhere in that. And some people are rebels. It's like I don't want to, and maybe justified in it because life has been a very difficult struggle. And I think no matter what, you know, like what Matthew's speaking to responsibility is like we have an opportunity once we've experienced something for ourselves, we've overcome a deep sorrow or valley, we have an opportunity to love others into existence. It's just like you're just because it's out of compassion and it's honoring their journey, but it's also it's an opportunity. It's the biggest gift that you could give is to love someone into existence, especially the rebels, especially the ones that are just like, no, I don't want it. Like, I don't trust that. I don't,
I have a few
I,
students who are very much resisting, and I have to remind them that others, if one person can do it, that means it's possible for others to do it. But they know it's going to be painful, and I don't sugarcoat it. It's like, suck it up, Buttercup. This is not for the faint of heart. But if you want to do this, those of us, I'm not above you or below you, even with a doctorate title. I'm simply ahead of you in the process, and I have to love them through it. Sometimes it's tough love, sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's they've got to just make the commitment, and sometimes it's they're not ready. I have many students that they're going to sit there for a while. I'm not dragging them across the finish line. They have to go in their own volition.
right.
And that's okay, and that's their choice.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
exactly. We do all have a choice. And well, now, Cheryl, I want to let you share your story. I know you have a seminar to share with us about that's this weekend. But Cheryl, if you're ready, we'd love for you to take the stage. And without further ado, Cheryl, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here, particularly with the idea of asking inquiry. As a college professor of 22 years, it's something that I'm very much into helping change the world, but knowing that I can't solve world hunger, but I can make a sandwich and I can help others in my corner of the world. It's the starfish metaphor. Many of us find solving world hunger to be too daunting. But if we can change the life for one other person, that one starfish we throw back into the ocean. I've taught many, many thousands of students over the years, and I'm always amazed by what are they doing now? And that's what the gentlemen are speaking to right now is what are you choosing to do? Not to watch in the sidelines. There's a responsibility. We're all here. We're all here to make it a better place. The question is, how do you show up? And it's ironic that as a college professor that I do a lot of training in failure because a lot of folks let failure and fear stop them. And part of what I talk about is fail faster, succeed sooner. And part of that is, yes, I teach you how to fail because if you don't know how to fail, you won't know how to succeed. And we don't like to teach that F word. That F word scares people. That F word's painful, much the same way you're doing. So we don't want to try for fear of going, well, we might not succeed. It's like, you're right, we might not. But I will tell you that as a very accomplished author now, having published 52 books, having a TED Talk, having to have all of these accolades, I speak around the world, it wasn't always that way. My TED Talk in particular talks about my greatest failures. I have failed in every area of my life, bar none. And if it's one of those, you go big or go home. But the challenge was to learn how to share my vulnerability as those failures happened. Because no one wants to see you just in your polish. It's easy when things go right, and I'm the glam gal that sits before you. But it wasn't so easy when I was in a wheelchair for 9 months. It wasn't so easy when I was divorced twice. It wasn't so easy when I've been told not once, not twice, but 3 different times that I was no longer going to be on this earth, and I proved them wrong every time. But it wasn't easy to go through those valleys. And part of it was a commitment. Maybe I'm stubborn. I know I'm stubborn. But part of that is not willing to give up. And that was part of what the secret is to keep showing up. And to Matthew's point, the easiest secret to know, once I learned it was not about me, things became such a much easier journey because it was not what I'm here to do for me, but how my journey and those failures and those painful moments are now serving others. And that to me is the greatest gift that I knew that it was my responsibility to share. And my TED Talk, it's not the doctor that shows up by any means. It's the most vulnerable and raw I have ever been and emotional on stage in the moment. And that was the hardest thing is to show people how it's done, not after the fact, but when you're right in the middle of it. I have a YouTube channel that I share with my students, and they always like when things go wrong in my life. It's really funny. But now I understand why. We don't like to share in those moments. And I know that was the last thing I want my students to see is when I'm not all dolled up and to see me emotional and tear room and when emotions overwhelm me and when things don't go right with family or relationships or someone dies, that those aren't the pretty sides of life. But they don't want to see me in the pretty sides of life because then it's too intimidating because I make it look easy. But it's because I was hiding for so long because I wasn't willing to take the stage until it was easy. And that's not the point. So now when my students can see me in the raw, in the damaging moments, in the critical fear, knowing that I'm still here and I still get up day after day after day, and I have my moments, and I have my inner circle, and I have my resources, and I change the world every single day. But I had to learn how to do it under grace and pressure. Again, when things go right, that's easy. When you have a personality like mine, and you're just all bubbly and stuff like that, I have to work at it. I don't wake up this way. Particularly when things aren't going my way, I have systems that I've learned, and it's all about love and kindness. I have one of my mentors, he's Steve Farber, and he's just one of his latest books is Love is Just Damn Good Business. And we need to take love out of the church and out of the home and put it right back in the boardroom in the business world. And so I love my students through their crisis. I talk them off the ledge. I will hold their hands. I'll dry their tears. I'll complain and moan right along with them, and then I will guide them forward because they know that I'm there for them. So having someone in your inner circle doesn't make life stop having bad moments. It doesn't make the failure any less painful, but it does make it easier when there's someone you know that is loving you through it, as Abram said. And that's an honor and a privilege to be along someone's path, because it's not a journey so much as or a destination. We don't end up anywhere, because as soon as we end up at our next lesson, there's always something more to do. And so I want to make sure I introduce you to an author called Napoleon Hill. He's one of my favorites, and he calls As a Man Thinketh. Because if you think you're a failure, you will be. If you think you're a success, you will be. Either way, you're right. It starts here with your verbiage. And when you realize that you can will this into existence and you can keep showing up time after time after time after time. One of my books, my latest one, is called Failure Has No Alibi, and it's straight from Napoleon Hill. Own it, account for it, admit it, deal with it, examine it, go through every painful process of it, and then let it go. But most of us avoid it. We forget about it. We don't want to touch about it. And I did for my failures. I have two of my greatest failures. I put them on a box. I put them in my closet, and they sat there for 30 years. One of them was my music dream. I was a sophomore in college, and my professor dismissed me from the program. I had been playing since I was 5 years old. There was no plan B. I'd never thought about any possibility of failure. And one day he just walked into my practice room and said, "You're done. Find a new line of work and rock right back out." My life changed forever. But I didn't have the maturity back then to know what to do about it. Music was a gift, a dream. I put it away. I put it in that box. I put it on the shelf, and I didn't look at it, didn't touch it. But our dreams have a way of coming back to us. For 30 years, I thought I could avoid that pain, and I stopped playing. Music isn't what you do. It's who you are to your core. And I walked away from who I was. But it's kind of funny how the universe kind of sends you messages. And when you're ready to hear them, they will come and allow you the opportunity and the gift. And come they did. November 2019, a baby grand piano found me. It sits in my living room now. And it was a painful reminder that I had let my dreams die, and it was my choice. I could have stayed in the business of music. I could have stayed for professional. I just wasn't at the Olympic level, and I didn't understand that I was good enough just the way I was. It took me a lifetime. And I remember it was painful as I had to make friends with my music again. It's the only way I got through COVID. My dog even now stays in the house. That my piano playing is nowhere near where it was, but it's now amazing. But that's me inside. And that's bringing that gift back. And if I can do it, so can you. Painful? Oh, yeah. 30 years I said goodbye to the love of my life, both music and a relationship that I couldn't deal. And a lot of us don't want that. So let me ask you to open your heart, to open your mind to the possibilities, and to open your mind to the messages you've been getting for a long time. I had a lot of messages that were given to me. I didn't and couldn't hear them until I opened my heart and went from here down here. And when my heart started speaking, it was an amazing journey. Painful, sure. But it allowed me the honor and the privilege to realize that that gift I was given 30 years ago of failure was really the greatest asset and the greatest moment of my life. I didn't recognize it. I wanted to go back to my professor and thank him. Unfortunately, he had passed away. He gave me the greatest way to force compliance, much like COVID, into areas that have given us grace and wisdom and gave me an amazing career I would have never had he not shifted my focus into something that I was way better at than my music. But my music is now back in my heart, in my soul, and in my life the way it always should have been. So let me advise you, take that self-examination. Easy? Nope. Painful? Absolutely. But Shakespeare told us an unexamined life is not worth living. These gentlemen here are telling you the wonders of the gift of inquiry. Choose that. Choose the path less traveled. Choose the painful way, because if we're not out of our comfort zone, we're not learning. And we don't like to be out of our comfort zone. It's uncomfortable. It's painful for a reason. And we can't avoid it, because if you really want to change the world, and what Abram had asked, what do you do when you don't know what to do next? You listen to your heart. Your heart knows. I have a pair of red shoes in my office here, and it reminds me of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. I've always had the answers. I had them 30 years ago. I just didn't click my heels, and that was the yellow brick road that I've been on, is in search of those answers, and not realizing that I always had them. I always had the power. I always had the choice. I always had the magic if I chose to see. And it's only when I started opening my heart and listening, that it was like, wow, the gifts that it gave me were just absolutely magical. And now that baby grand piano sits played lovingly as much as I can throughout the week. And that gift of music is back. And since that music came back, it is amazing how much my world has come alive. Bad stuff still happens, but bad is contextual. Life happens for us, not to us. And if you can embrace it and you can smile about it and say, oh, yeah, there it is. Let's see what we can do. I do not want to have any more regrets in my life. COVID's helped me realize that till that fat lady sings, I want to embrace every single opportunity, every failure, every success, and understand the wisdom and the lessons it teaches me every single day, if I choose to listen. Not easy. No one likes to know they're wrong. It took me 30 years. I'm pretty stubborn. Don't let it be 30 years for you. We all have dreams, as Abram has said. We all have gifts we bring to the world. It's selfish not to share our gifts. And it was tough for me to know that I got very sick for a very long time. It took me a long time to realize why. My body realized I was living the wrong life. I wasn't living the life I was meant to live. It just looked different, very different, drastically different. And if you can be open to those possibilities, amazing things happen. It is so cool now to have music and opportunities that just somehow fall from the sky. And that's not true. Success is where opportunity and preparedness meet. Preparedness is the difficult part of the journey, those valleys. No one likes them. But if you keep putting your foot in front of the other and you trust that others will help you through that space. I didn't get through these alone. I have an inner circle that's absolutely amazing. But those were the expectations. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about in the seminar on Saturday, is what happens when you earned all your credentials. You can see my Love Me Wall, and I'm actually getting a 4th master's. I should finish here hopefully in a couple of months. But it's a matter of, what does the universe need from me? I go where I'm asked, and I serve when I'm asked. And it is the most amazing opportunity with things I never thought of. Opportunities that just come because now I'm ready. I've been preparing for a very long time. And now I can see the pain in others. I can see the desires and the dreams in my students, in my consulting clients, in my friends, in my relationships and family. And now I just smile going, oh, it was all worth it. Because now it's my honor and privilege to help them through their valleys, and to know that I can love them through the tough parts and the dark parts. You never go alone. And I was wise enough eventually to have friends ahead of me that finally said, Cheryl, it's about time. Where have you been? But we have to make that choice. And we have to make that conviction. And we have to make that commitment. And it's not going to be easy. I will not promise you smooth sailing at all. And I don't wish that for you. because we are only growing when we're out of our comfort zone. And sometimes the universe has to really rock our world to get our attention. And it did for me. That wheelchair was the most powerful lesson that the world doesn't know about, because I wouldn't let them see that level of vulnerability. And I vowed I would never allow myself to go back there because it was here. That's what kept me shackled and in my own control that I didn't even know I had. Those red shoes, right? Dorothy, she always had the answers. And so did I. I just didn't listen. I'm stubborn, let me tell you, I'm stubborn. Taurus for a reason. So I want you to take the opportunity to take the path less traveled. You've got all the answers you need. Just keep showing up. You're going to do amazing things in this world. The world's waiting for you. Let us help you get there. I'm Dr. Cheryl Lentz, and it's a pleasure to be part of this show. If you need something, come find me. I'll take you the rest of the way. Namaste.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. You were such a light, and it's such a you said so many things that are so profound. I just acknowledge you for the space you hold for people to discover themselves and to just be free and powerful in their own gifts and in their own commitments. And I love what you're saying about failure, something that I've been saying a lot, and since I experienced it for myself, but failure is our biggest teacher. It's not our successes.
It is. And it's the greatest gift. It's not a bad thing, but we really think it is.
Yeah.
It's not. It's the greatest gift we could ever give if we can reframe it that way.
Right. It's beautiful to be able to it's like, oh, and I think it's separating the I from the failure, because it's like I'm a failure versus I failed to perform at this, but I can just change my actions and do this instead. And it's because whenever we fail, or whenever I failed, it's I'm a failure and I can't do anything and I don't know what to do. And it's like it's because
We internalize that. We
Yeah.
have to separate ourselves, the person, from ourselves, the skill. The skill, maybe not so much. We are always wonderful, magical, powerful human beings, but we need to separate it, because I, like you, thought it's like, oh my God, I suck. I'm the worst thing ever. I am never going to amount to. I just got dismissed. I'm the only one in the history of the university that's ever been dismissed. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? It took me decades to realize there wasn't anything wrong with me. My playing, not so good, or not as good as the others. But me, absolutely lovely, and as much as I was back then, but I didn't think so. It took me a long time to realize that. So powerful stuff.
It really is.
I think the one of my biggest takeaways from what you're sharing is actually shifting our relationship with pain and drama. One of the other things that's been really present for me in the past few months or so has been breaking humanity's habit of fear-based decision making.
Absolutely.
Like there's just so many things that by default get chosen because we're scared of the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me, it's all been about embracing pain and actually looking at pain as, oh, this can be.
Who runs into a building, Matthew, by choice? No one does that except a firefighter, right? And we have to do what's counterintuitive to actually run toward it instead of running away from it.
Exactly. And so in that way, fear can actually be a guide. Like that thing that you're scared of, that's the thing to go do.
My mentor tells me, it's like, what have you done that scared you today? And I'm going, a little bit. He goes, no, what have you done that's really scared you to do? I'm like, oh, that's a whole different conversation.
What was your answer?
Depends on the day. There are things that I still struggle with that I have to, whether it's a specific, I'll tell you, I was petrified for my TED Talk. And I'll tell you, once I got there and I saw this, I could not believe how scared I was. I've been waiting for this for 10 years and I was petrified and had to talk myself through that. I'm like, that was a bold and audacious goal, and I'm glad I did it, but I'm really shocked that it was so difficult for me.
Yeah.
What about you two? Come on, you got to fess up. If I'm going to put this out there, what are the ones for you two? Come on.
Speaking my truth. On a consistent and daily basis. And what I'm noticing is I'm not scared of how people react. I'm scared of how I think people will react.
Amen. Amen. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like that's been like one of the biggest revelations is most of my fear, probably all of my fear, like is based on belief, like what I believe
And
is
it's
going to happen.
all right here.
Yeah, yeah, and like
Isn't
I
it
don't
amazing that
know.
we are our own worst enemies? And when we learn the secrets, all of this, it just goes away. But it takes a lot of work to learn how to do that.
Yeah,
All right,
Yeah.
Abram, now it's your turn.
Oh
What's your
yeah.
biggest? What scared you? Come on, I saw you grinning over there.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's I think everything is rooted for me. Like all the things that I've like, come out of fear and survival has been belonging and being
Mm.
enough. And it's like this. It's interesting because it's what I've unpacked in the last few years is like things that seemingly were so in the past and not even really significant. You know, events in my life where I took it as I'm abandoned and I don't belong. People don't like me. I better be a nice guy. I better be a people pleaser. And not what I that was ever a rational decision, but it was like it was survival. But yeah, it's being enough and belonging is really
And
for
it's
me.
amazing what we will do to do that. That is such a
Oh
Maslow's
yeah,
hierarchy. We will gravitate to that because it's as need as air and breathing and food.
right. Absolutely.
And once we
It's
realize
always
we
there.
were already there, it's a really powerful day for you going, really? Wow. And then all of it just disappears. But until you get to that point, it can be a big mountain to climb.
so going back to your music teacher for a minute, that day like he walked in and was like, "You're done." What was it that finally? Because I and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that was probably a pretty traumatic experience. And there was a lot of grief, and there was a pretty long period of like grieving and going through. And do you remember what it was that finally snapped you out of it?
I decided to have fun. And I know that's going to sound very crass, but it was, I found music as having to play all the time and practice all the time. And I would hear all of the things that everybody was going out and partying and doing all these things you do in college. And I was on a very strict, because I was competing against grad students. I was the only undergrad. So they had already gone through the fun stuff. And all I was doing, and I know that I started to get bitter and resentful about it because it's like, oh, I want to go to the football game and I want to go to the dance. And I would discipline myself not to. And when it finally got to the point that I didn't see the returns on it, and my professor said, bye bye, I turned that around and said, fine, if you don't want me, I don't want you. I put the music on the shelf, and suddenly my life went a very different direction. I became a sorority girl, believe it or not. I became a little sister at a fraternity. I went to parties. I went to football games. I went to the business of living. I found my tribe. And no matter what I did, it was that belongingness in there. Oh, they loved me. It didn't matter. I was not very well at the time. And we partied in the emergency room. I have more emergency room party stories. My friends were like, I don't care. We'll party wherever you go, you know? And they never judged me for it. And that was the turning part of knowing I was good enough no matter where I was. And they loved me and accepted me. I had a great time, my junior and senior year in particular. But it's because I made that choice because of what my professor did. I really worry if my professor wouldn't have dismissed me, my life would have turned out very differently. Very differently. I don't think I'd be the gregarious and the party girl and the energy that I have was because of those days. That was a success because I turned it off. I wish I could have done it concurrently and not put music away and not played for 30 years. It didn't have to be an either or, but that decision of saying, going, I'm going to embrace this path, and oh my god, it was so much my best 2 years ever. If I had to relive my life, those are the 2 years I'm going to do over and over again, absolutely. And so, but it was a decision, but I can't take credit for it, Matthew. That's the weird part. I didn't make that choice. It was forced compliance. I didn't have a choice. And if I wanted to graduate, here were the new boundaries, and you had to figure it out to make it happen. And I spent an extra summer in summer school so I could still graduate on time. My degree on the wall looks very different from the University of Illinois, though, than what I intended. But here's what's been coming up for me all week. What you want isn't always what you need.
Mm,
And that to me has been such a revelation going, we can want things that aren't good for us. We can want things, and the universe always knows better. And so now I'm trying to, like Abram said, is let go of what it looks like. Let go of having to worry about planning and structuring and just to be. And for a type A personality, trust me, that is not easy. Just to sit in a room and just allow things to happen. Oh no, I am bing, 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 bing. I am someone that's planner. And I've had to learn in the last 2 years in particular is to lighten up, Francis, to let things
Right.
happen. And that is not my personality. And it's been a tough journey, but a fun one.
Yeah.
You said something in there that I feel like is really key. Um, you were competing against undergrads, and you were consistently choosing to practice versus living, and that choice was built causing anger and resentment to build up.
And I think the universe solved that dilemma.
Hmm.
Exactly. Like
But it
so.
wasn't by my hand, though. That's the part. My professor had to come in and close it down because I would have never done that voluntarily. No way. Mm-mm.
I love
I don't know
this,
if
and
we'll ever know the real answer to that because
Well,
I mean
maybe not. Maybe
that's
this
not.
this
You're right. You're right. I don't know.
well,
yeah
this is
like
coming full circle for me, and I want to turn to this because I actually have two inquiries I want to ask everybody. I want everyone to share,
Okay.
because but what you're speaking to is, you know, when we build practices or structures on top of a flimsy or an inauthentic why, it's always
That's
bound.
it.
You know, if we dominate, it's like we could have every reason to want to do something and dominate ourselves and discipline ourselves until we're, until we achieve it, to be the most competitive at this or at that, and but it's never going to align with us when
And
it's
that's
not
why I got
grounded in
sick.
that inquiry.
It's kind of like that computer that shuts down when it gets
Right,
incompatible codes and it just says, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to do nothing. My
right,
body was shutting down and I wasn't
right.
listening. And
Oh,
now when it
exactly.
finally said, fine, we're going to bring you to your knees, now you have to listen. And it was like, wow. So if you don't
No,
do it, I guarantee you the universe is going to do it for you and you might not like it.
right. Absolutely. So are you both ready? I have two. I
Okay,
want
here
to
we
ask
go.
two inquiries. All right. Well, let's start. So I'll start with this first inquiry, and each inquiry has a distinction
Okay.
a theme, and also each distinction has a virtue or a practice. And I'll explain. I'll kind of go first just to show you kind of how I'm doing this. But the first, the first distinction or the inquiry is, what is my highest aim? And I use that in it with the distinction of passion with the practice of justice. And what I mean is, like, it's like something, and I would say we all innately have something that's like, this isn't has to be the way it is, because it's like, so I'll share for me. So I said, what is my highest aim? I said, for us to experience wonder and beauty in every space we exist, from the seeds we planted for one another, for the beauty outside us to be a reflection of the beauty within us, for every person to know their value and through their authentic self expression, make the choice to bring the experience of joy and alleviate the experience of suffering for all people.
Wow, that's heavy. That's heavy, Abram.
Well, I want to invite you, Cheryl, to go next, but I kind of had a time because I wrote mine out, so you don't feel like you have to like have it.
No, no. But my passion is easy. It's that which I left on the table 30 years ago. It's music. Music is
Mm,
my sanctuary. Music is my church. And the fact that I left it behind, music brings me joy. Whenever anything's going on, I have a specific way, and I have to be the ambassador of music that's out there now in any way, shape, or form that I can. I don't know what my future will look like, but I know music has to be part of it. My heart sings
I
now for
can
the first
totally
time.
relate. I can totally relate, and in that frame or in that context, in being there, what is your highest aim?
That question I don't know yet because I thought my highest aim would have been to be a church organist, which was to play at Notre Dame and to play at Holy Name Cathedral. And Notre Dame's no longer with us, as you might notice, which is kind of curious. But I know that there is an ambassador of music, which is the way it's going to unite us in some way. My one of my joys and one of my gifts is to be able to speak, and I want to speak at the United Nations and how music unites people. Music is
Mm-hmm.
universal. There's no Italian, French, that everyone speaks out. Music, everyone understands. And I think that's a uniting force that somehow, some way, my purpose is going to be tied to that. So maybe I can come back a year from now and I might have a better answer, but I think
You
that's
said it. No,
exactly,
well,
yeah.
I don't. You answered it, even if you didn't see it. I heard in everything you shared was unity.
Mm.
Your highest aim is unity.
That's interesting. You know more than I do. I think
I just
that's
listen.
incredible.
I
Wow.
I'm just listening to you speak about it, and it's like I want to do this, and I want to connect people, and I want unity. It's like you are. That's what it's. I mean, and there's no, and that's the
Wow.
fun of the inquiry. But
And a star is born.
yeah. I want Matthew to go next, but I'll just say, this is a new personal practice that I'm taking on, is having an inquiry every day, and I have one for every day of the week, and it's kind of been a new, just grounding myself there when I wake up, and letting the structures build on top of that. Because no matter what, I can think I want to do all these things, but when it's grounded on this inquiry, it's I can build structures and I can build habits based on that, rather
Mm.
than all the mind chatter, which will take me this way and that way.
Oh yes. When I have to, that's part of what music does for me too, is it just quiets the voices in my head that sometimes have their own
Mm-hmm.
soundtrack that we've been listening to
I
for
got.
years. The
I
louder
was
the
just
music,
playing guitar.
yep, the louder the music, the more those voices go away. So, all right, Matthew, your turn. You're the hot seat.
Real quick, I did hear the same thing as Abram. Unity.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was very clear.
Well,
And
I
very clear.
appreciate the answers. What an interesting revelation. Hmm.
This is actually something I've been asking this same question in a different way for the last month or so. So I kind of already have an answer.
Yeah.
And I've already said it. It's like breaking that habit of fear based decision making.
Mm.
So breaking it in myself first, and then being an example to others of how to actually choose differently.
That's what's needed. That example to others so they know how. Oh, that's beautiful.
So for me, the distinction is you're either deciding from fear
Mm.
or you're choosing as love.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And, fear is very much about belief and perception, whereas love is about being present and listening to to your intuition.
Mm.
Awesome. So what I heard in you sharing, Matthew, is love in leadership, because
Hmm.
leadership is in listening.
Yeah.
And I love it. That's awesome. Okay, so you're ready to do one more? I know you got to hop off in the hour, but you ready to do one more?
One more, if we can do it quickly.
One
Sure.
more.
That's
We'll
it,
do
me.
it real quickly. All right. So the next inquiry, the distinction is discovery, and the virtue or
Mm.
practice is intuition. And from the intuition of discovery, what are we building together? And I'll answer first. I'll say, we are building a beacon of love, an embassy for
Mm.
humanity, and a lighthouse for butterflies to flutter and fly with us. A fertile space and soil for growth, transformation, and the unique self expression of source within us all. A canvas for us to create beautiful new realms of possibility in a future that inspires, uplifts, and empowers all. And a shared experience of reality that is a work of art, and we are all painters and creators of.
I want to live in that world, Abram. That's beautiful.
Well, you're in it right now.
Wow. That's powerful. Can you imagine if every person had one thought like that a day and how this world would change? That's amazing. Mm, I like it.
Well, good. You're invited.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So you, Cheryl, how about you?
I believe mine would also structure with love and the operationalizability of it. I find too many people think that love is in the church, love is in the home. I want love in the office. I want love in the school. I want to have everything that we do that it's no longer not cool to say when I tell my students I love them that it's okay and it's not politically incorrect or taken out of context inappropriately. I want them to feel the love of that space and not to reserve it for places that we feel more comfortable out. So love has to shine and be the butterflies and to come out into the world and no longer hide. And I think that is where we will change the world one step at a time. Oh, that's beautiful. I like it.
I love it. I want to offer you something because I have a mentor who he said he had the same issue where he said I love you, because I say it a lot, and it's like I throw my love around and I say, but it's like I think something you could use is I love you and you have no vote in the matter.
Ah, I love that. Oh, that's fabulous. That's fabulous. I love it. Oh, I
It's
will
like
remember that. Oh, I'm
it's
taking
like, how do you
notes.
know you love me? How do you know you love me? And what do you mean by that? It's like, and you have no vote about it. It's just like, it's like, all right.
Oh, I like it. Thank you. I received that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. How about you, Matthew? What are we building together? And just acknowledge Cheryl has another thing on the hour, so we're gonna close after this. Although we could talk for hours,
I
obviously.
know. Invite me back. I'm sorry that
I
I've
know.
got a hard stop because
No,
this is
you're
fantastic. I
coming
got
back.
goosebumps.
You're coming back.
Mine is actually really similar to what both of you said. We're creating a space of absolute non-judgment and acceptance.
Ooh,
Right? To me,
that's.
that's what love is. Like love is radical acceptance.
Oh, I like the
And
way you use the word radical. That is really cool.
yeah, radically accepting this is what is. Like it's the greatest gift I was ever given was actually to be able to say anything without fear of being judged.
That's tough because we often, as you said in your perceptions earlier, we make the decisions for others that we think they're going to say before we ever give them that opportunity. We already decide for them. And if we could just let it go and just say how wonderful it is without judgment, that's the unconditional part. Love is Corinthians, right? Love
Yeah,
endures all things, creates all things.
love is patient,
That's
love is
beautiful.
kind.
One thing, a quick thing, I about interesting about. I think it was Corinthians. It's the love,
Yeah,
epistle,
love
right?
is kind, love is
And
patient, that one.
but I think he was in the midst, or Paul was in the midst of the most suffering. I think he was being tortured like he was.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
like it's the most ironic. Like he was in the most physical pain and created the most loving. It blows the mind. I mean, whether you're
Hmm.
Christian or not, like I love Paul. I'm in
I have
this.
it framed next to my bed, and it's one of those that reminds me, A, it's not about me, and it's the fact of unconditional, like Matthew says, unjudgment on anything, that it's just about love, and it endures all things with a smile on its face because that's just what love is. You love them a little
Yeah,
more when things get tough, not less. Mm,
absolutely. So Cheryl, thank you again so much for being with us. I'm
thank
going to
you.
share anybody at home tuning in and wants to be a part of the seminar. Cheryl's going to be there. Leverage your degree. It's on the 29th. That's Saturday, right? Yeah, at 3
That's
p.m.
Saturday,
Central.
3 o'clock. Yep. Thank you so much. And I would love to see them because this is part of what we're doing is helping you get that journey right so that you're happy in your heart. And that's what all of this should be about. So perfect segue. Thank you. Mwah. I appreciate you
Oh,
two
thank
so
you,
much.
Cheryl. Thank
thank
you.
you.
So nice to have you with us, Cheryl, and it's such a pleasure and honor. And we'll definitely have you back. We have more games to play. We have more inquiries. We have all kinds of stuff. We want to talk. We could talk a lot about a
We
lot of
could
things.
indeed. I'm so excited about this. I'm just sorry that I have other engagements right now in there,
No,
but be well and make good choices. Take care,
mm,
everybody. Thank
Oh,
you.
take care. Thank you,
aloha.
Cheryl,
Bye bye.
and thank you all at home for tuning in. I just want to invite you. Wherever you're at, whatever you're up to, like just know that you have something amazing to share. And I want to invite you to be on this stage. Whatever you're facing, or you faced, or you're in the depths of right now, there's something that you're in your life and in your journey that is a gift and a wisdom for another. And no matter how much how much you've dealt with or you're dealing with, you have something unique that somebody else needs to hear. Like, you can create so much with your experiences for others. And it's something, both Cheryl and Matthew said, it's like, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about something so much greater. And even when the world feels like it's falling apart, where we ultimately find fulfillment is how we can contribute to others. We were not meant to be just hidden on an island. And I've tried it. I'm trying to hide and be a certain way and make people like me and appreciate me, and it's like I've been afraid to share, and to share my music, or to share this platform, or every passion. It's like, what will people think of me, and what will they? And it's like, no, that's selfish. Who you are, the truest, real, most full, whole expression of you, is something that will light and lift somebody else up. And the more you embody that, I invite you to just share you and to just be the love and the light that you are. And I want to invite you to be on this stage. The link is on the screen, onedaymvmt.org/share my gift. We want you to share your gift. And also, this is what we do at One Day. We are a platform of leaders that are about connecting people. And our mission here is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And that's part of our One Day vision is humanity is rising in a connected world with each person's unique gifts and genius and contributions being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility. I love you all, and you have no vote in the matter. We'll see you next week, and be well, be safe, and as always, one day is today. Peace, everybody.